The humans' offer, the alien colony, was alive with noise, laughter, and glowing lights. Merchants shouted from their stalls, strange fruits and glowing liquids lined the streets. And the tall alien guards kept their usual proud expressions. Humans were few in this colony, seen as weak, odd, and always mocked for their strange ways. They were allowed here only as traders, and even then, the aliens never missed a chance to laugh at them. On this evening, in the middle of the crowded marketplace, a single human stood calmly. His clothes were plain. Nothing like the shining armor of alien warriors or the flowing robes of their nobles. Yet in his hands, he carried something that drew the eyes of everyone who passed. It was flat, round, and steaming, resting inside a simple box. The smell spread into the air, warm, rich, and unlike anything the aliens had ever breathed in. The crowd wrinkled their noses at first, then chuckled, then burst into full laughter. "Look at that human," one alien scoffed, his tall form towering over the man. "He brings us flat bread with melted animal fat," another sneered, silver eyes glowing with amusement. The laughter grew louder, bouncing off the walls of the market. The human did not move, did not argue. He only smiled quietly as the steam rose into the cold night air. To the aliens, food was sacred, full of rich spices, glowing oils, and exotic textures. They could not imagine how something so simple, so common, could have value. One alien warrior leaned closer and sniffed, only to burst into mocking laughter. "It smells like burned plants," he said. "And the human dares to call this food." The others joined in, clapping their hands, their voices shaking the street. But then, something strange happened. The smell lingered, sharper, richer, and even as they laughed, their stomachs tightened. Some looked at one another in silence, not daring to admit that the scent pulled at them. The human opened the box fully, letting the warm air escape. Golden crust, melted cheese, and colorful toppings shone under the market lights. The aliens paused, their laughter faltering for the first time. Still, their pride would not let them admit curiosity. To them, admitting interest in human food was weakness. But among the crowd, one alien woman stepped forward. She was tall, her armor decorated with medals of battle, her voice sharp, her reputation fierce. She looked down at the human and smirked. "Is this what you call a gift, human? Do you think we will fall to your bread?" she asked, her tone mocking. The human only tilted his head and offered the box. "One bite," he said simply, "and you will know why we eat this." The crowd roared with laughter again. But the woman narrowed her eyes. She was known for taking risks, for doing what others feared to do, and in this moment, her pride demanded she prove humans wrong. She reached down, grabbed a slice, and lifted it to her mouth. The crowd shouted, some daring her not to, others urging her forward just to see her humiliate the human. Her sharp teeth bit into the slice, and the world seemed to go still. At first, her expression was mocking, ready to spit it out. But then, her eyes widened. Her laughter stopped, her body froze. The flavor spread across her tongue. Rich and layered, soft bread, sharp cheese, warm spices, a taste that melted into something entirely new. It was nothing like the heavy alien dishes she had eaten her whole life. It was simple, yet it was alive. She blinked, swallowed, and without meaning to, took another bite. The crowd gasped, the silence heavy. She tried to hide her reaction, but the warmth of the food betrayed her. Her sharp smirk had softened, her eyes betrayed desire. And then the most shocking thing of all happened. She licked her fingers. The warriors behind her stepped forward, confused. "Is it poisoned?" one demanded, but she only shook her head slowly, staring at the human with disbelief. "It is different," she admitted, her voice quieter than ever before. The laughter had stopped. The market had gone silent. The alien stared at the simple box of human food as if it were treasure. The human said nothing, his calm smile never fading, but inside, he knew what had just happened. The first bite had been taken. The first crack in their pride had opened. It was no longer just a joke. It was the beginning of something else. The smell still lingered, stronger than before, and more aliens began to shift in unease. Their pride told them to laugh, but their hunger whispered something different, and in that whisper, the human found his power. First bite. First shock. The warrior woman stood in the center of the marketplace, the half-eaten slice still in her hand. Her lips moved as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. For the first time, the fearless soldier, decorated with scars and medals, looked uncertain. The crowd leaned closer, silence pressing down on them like a heavy weight. She swallowed slowly, her throat tight, her chest rising and falling. The taste lingered inside her mouth, refusing to fade away. It was not just food, it was something more, something she could not explain. Her people prided themselves on strong flavors, bitter herbs, burning spices, and the heat of alien oils. Yet here was something different, soft but powerful, simple but layered. It was like warmth itself had taken form and settled on her tongue. The crowd began to whisper, "What is she doing?" One alien muttered, his sharp voice shaking, "She should spit it out." Another said quickly, "She must be testing the human for poison." But deep inside, they all saw the truth. The warrior was not rejecting it, she was savoring it. The human stood calmly, his eyes steady. He did not laugh at their confusion, did not shout in victory. He simply waited, the box still open, the steam still rising. His silence was louder than all their mockery had been. The warrior looked at him again, her pride fighting against the craving rising inside her. She had meant to humiliate him, to prove that human food was worthless, but instead, she found herself lifting the slice again, taking another bite before she could stop herself. The soft crunch of bread, the melting cheese, the burst of flavor. It was too much, too new, too perfect. Her eyes closed for a moment as if she were lost. When she opened them, the entire crowd was staring, and her armor suddenly felt heavier. A ripple went through the aliens around her, first disbelief, then anger, then a dangerous kind of curiosity. One warrior shouted, "It is a trick, she is bewitched." Another hissed, "He is using human chemicals, he is corrupting her mind." But no one dared move closer, no one dared strike the human. The woman dropped the last piece of crust into her mouth and licked her fingers again. That small human gesture shocked the crowd more than the food itself. Alien pride demanded control, strength and discipline, yet here their strongest warrior stood, lowering herself to something they had mocked only moments before. The crowd's anger was now mixed with hunger. They could not deny what they had seen. They could not deny the way her eyes had softened, the way her breath had quickened. They wanted to know the taste for themselves, but pride chained them in silence. The human finally spoke, his voice steady and quiet. "Food is not weakness," he said. "It is memory. It is comfort. It is life." The words seemed small, yet they cut through the silence like a blade. The aliens shifted, their claws tapping the ground nervously, their eyes darting toward the box. Still, no one moved. Their pride held them in place. Then a child's voice broke the air. From the edge of the crowd, a young alien, smaller and thinner than the others, stepped forward. Her eyes glowed with innocence, not pride, and she tugged at her mother's arm. "Can I try it?" she whispered, her voice barely reaching the front. Gasps erupted, some turned in anger, others in shock. Children never asked for human things, never dared break tradition, but the smell of the pizza had cut through her fears, through the lies her people had always told. The mother tried to pull her back, but the human bent down, offering a slice with calm respect. The little alien girl took it with trembling hands. She bit into it, and her eyes lit up like stars. Her tiny voice broke into laughter, not mocking, but joyful, pure, and honest. "It's wonderful," she said softly, crumbs falling from her lips. The sound of her happiness struck the crowd harder than any speech could have. Whispers turned into shouts. "How can it taste so good?" One demanded, "What sorcery is this?" Another hissed, but beneath the fear was a growing need. They wanted to know. They needed to know. The warrior woman looked at the child, then at the human, her face twisted with conflict. But deep in her chest, she knew the truth. This was no trick. No poison, no spell. It was real, and that was more dangerous than any weapon. The human closed the box slowly, the smell vanishing into the night air. The crowd leaned forward, desperate, hungry, their pride cracking like old stone. But he turned, lifting the box under his arm, and began to walk away. The silence turned into chaos, shouts filling the marketplace. "Wait!" Some called, "Give us more." Others demanded, but the human did not stop. His quiet steps echoed louder than their cries. For the first time in history, aliens had begged a human for something. And deep inside the crowd, a dangerous thought began to grow. If one slice of food could do this, what else could humans create? The crowd demands more. The human walked away slowly, his steps calm, the closed box tucked under his arm. The steam was gone now, but the memory of its smell still clung to the air like a ghost. The crowd stood frozen, their laughter silenced, their pride wounded, and their hunger burning. No one had expected such a small thing to shake them. Yet it had. The warrior woman clenched her fists, her body still trembling from the taste. She wanted to shout at him, to demand another slice, but her voice failed. She had fought in wars, faced beasts with claws and fangs. Yet she could not fight this craving. Her people were watching, and every second of silence felt heavier. From behind, the small alien girl still smiled, chewing happily. Her innocent joy spread like a spark in dry grass. More whispers filled the crowd. Desperate, restless. "I want to try," one voice admitted softly. Another growled, "No, it is weakness." But his eyes betrayed his hunger. Finally, one alien warrior broke, his pride snapping under the weight of desire. He stepped forward, his armor clanking, his tall form towering over the human. "Give me a slice," he demanded, his voice shaking with both anger and need. The human stopped, turned slowly, and looked up at him. There was no fear in his eyes, only that same calm smile. "Do you ask?" the human said quietly. "Or do you beg?" The warrior froze, the words striking like a blade. Aliens were not supposed to beg, never, not for anything. But his mouth watered, his throat tightened, and his pride crumbled in front of everyone. His hand trembled as he reached out. I ask," he muttered, his voice low, almost ashamed. The human opened the box again, steam rising once more. The crowd gasped as the smell rushed over them. Sharper, richer, impossible to resist. The warrior grabbed the slice and bit into it quickly. Desperate, his eyes widened, his armor rattled as his chest heaved. He chewed, swallowed, and then he laughed, not a mocking laugh, but a laugh of shock and joy. "It is true," he shouted. "This food is power." The market erupted, aliens shouting, pushing, reaching forward. They no longer cared about pride, no longer cared about appearances. Hands stretched out, voices begged, warriors and nobles alike. "Give me one," shouted a merchant. "Just a piece," cried another. Even the guards who once stood proud now leaned forward, their eyes hungry. The human did not rush. He moved slowly, offering slices one by one. Each alien who tasted it changed, their mocking expressions melting into awe. They fought to hide it, but their shaking hands and wide eyes betrayed them. Some even dropped to their knees, chewing as if the food itself was sacred. The warrior woman who had taken the first bite stepped forward again. She pointed at the human with narrowed eyes. Though her voice trembled, "You have done something to us," she said. "This is not natural." But another warrior cut her off, his voice louder, desperate. "Who cares what it is? I need more." Chaos spread, the market no longer orderly. Aliens who once mocked humans now argued and fought among themselves. Some shouted that it was dangerous, others shouted that it was a miracle, but all of them looked at the box with hunger. The human closed it again, silence falling like a stone. "Enough for today," he said simply. His calm tone was more powerful than any weapon. The crowd groaned, begged, even offered him gold and jewels, but he shook his head, turning to leave. "This food is not sold for coins," he said quietly. "It is worth more than that." The warrior woman stepped forward, blocking his path. Her eyes burned with both anger and desire. "What do you want, human? What is your price?" she demanded. The human looked up at her, meeting her fierce gaze. "You will know when the time comes," he answered softly. His words echoed, filling the ears of every alien around him. They felt as though he had planted something inside them, a need that would not fade. They had laughed at him, mocked him, treated him as nothing. But now he held them in his hand, with nothing more than food. He had broken their pride and shaken their world. That night, the marketplace did not sleep. Aliens gathered in secret corners, whispering about the taste. Some denied it, calling it weakness, but even they licked their lips as they remembered. Others admitted openly that they wanted more, that they needed it. The human returned to his quarters quietly, the box empty, his smile calm. He knew the truth. The first stage was complete. They had tasted, they had craved, and tomorrow they would beg. The spread of addiction. The night after the marketplace incident, the alien colony was restless. Shadows moved through alleys. Whispers carried from one corner to another. No one spoke openly about it, yet everyone was thinking the same thing. The taste of that strange human food still lingered in their mouths, or in their memory. It haunted them like a dream they could not forget. Merchants who once laughed at humans now shut their stalls early. Instead of selling glowing oils and rich spices, they searched the streets for the human warriors who once guarded the city gates. Now sat silently, remembering the warmth of that bite. Even the council members, proud and cold, called secret meetings, not about war or trade, but about pizza. At first, they tried to resist. They told themselves it was just curiosity, just one new thing, nothing more. But the craving grew stronger with every passing hour. Their regular meals, colorful, bitter, and full of spice, no longer satisfied. Their tongues searched for the softness, the warmth, the strange balance of flavors they had tasted only once. The warrior woman, who had taken the first bite, found herself awake in the middle of the night. She paced in her quarters, her armor lying untouched. Her soldiers whispered outside, wondering why their commander had lost her usual fire. But she knew the truth. Her mind kept returning to that simple slice of bread and cheese. She hated herself for wanting it, but she could not stop. Meanwhile, the little alien girl who had dared to try it smiled in her sleep. Her mother tried to silence her, telling her never to ask for human food again. But children had no pride to protect, only honesty. The girl woke the next morning and declared loudly, "I want more of the human's bread." Her innocent demand spread quickly. Soon, other children repeated the same words, and when the children spoke, their parents could not ignore them. By the second day, small groups formed in the marketplace. Aliens gathered in corners, their voices low. "Have you seen the human?" One whispered, "I heard he has more." Another replied. Some denied it, pretending not to care, but their eyes betrayed hunger. The colony was changing, and it was happening faster than anyone expected. The human, however, did not rush. He appeared only once, standing at the same marketplace stall, calm as ever. This time, he did not bring a large pizza, only a small one. The crowd swarmed instantly. Warriors pushing aside merchants, nobles shoving past commoners. The human raised his hand and silence fell. "This is not for all of you," he said quietly. "Only for those who ask with respect." The words cut deep. Aliens were not used to bowing their heads to humans, not used to lowering their voices. But one by one, they stepped forward, no longer mocking, no longer laughing. They begged, not with words of weakness, but with trembling hands and desperate eyes, and the human gave them slices, slow and calm, like a teacher guiding children by. The third day, the addiction had spread beyond the marketplace. In the council hall, leaders argued fiercely. "This food is dangerous," one shouted, slamming his clawed hand on the table. It weakens our discipline. Another added, but their voices faltered, because even they had tasted it, even they wanted more. Some called for a ban on human food, declaring it unworthy of their kind. But bans did nothing. The craving was too strong, and secret lines began to form outside the humans' quarters. Merchants offered him gold, jewels, even rare alien spices. Warriors offered him their protection, promising to guard him day and night. But the human refused every offer, his smile never leaving. "This food is not bought with riches," he repeated. "It is earned." By the fourth day, the colony was no longer the same. Shops stood empty, trade slowed, even patrols weakened, all because aliens were too busy whispering about the next slice. Children cried for it. Parents searched desperately. Soldiers argued over it. The proud and disciplined society was cracking. The warrior woman finally confronted him again. She stepped into the marketplace, her voice louder than the rest. "You are playing a dangerous game, human," she warned. "You have turned my people into beggars." The human looked at her calmly, his eyes steady. "Not beggars," he replied softly. "Learners." His words struck her harder than any weapon. She wanted to fight him, to end the madness, but deep in her chest, the truth twisted like a blade. She herself was part of it now. She wanted more, just like the rest. And the worst part, she knew the human was only beginning. That night, across the colony, the whispers grew louder. Pizza was no longer just food. It was a fire spreading through every home. Families argued. Soldiers disobeyed orders. Even council leaders grew distracted, and in the center of it all, the human remained. Calm, holding not weapons, not power, but a simple box. A box that had become more dangerous than any sword. Power struggle begins. The alien council chamber was restless, filled with the sharp hiss of arguments and the pounding of fists on stone tables. For generations, their meetings had been about wars, trade, and borders. But now, for the first time, the subject was food. Not alien food, not glowing oils or rare fruits, but human food. Pizza had reached every corner of the colony, and the council could no longer pretend it was nothing. The warrior woman stood before them, her armor polished, her voice steady though her heart was restless. "We are losing control," she said. "Our soldiers are distracted, our merchants abandon their stalls, even children defy their parents. All because of this human dish." The council leader, a tall alien with silver horns and glowing eyes, slammed his hand on the table. "It is a weapon," he growled. "He is weakening us with it." Another council member leaned forward, his voice sharper. "Then take it from him, force him to give us the recipe." The chamber echoed with agreement, but others shook their heads. One older alien whispered, "Force him? And if he refuses, do you not see? He does not fear us." Silence followed, heavy and uncomfortable. The truth was clear. The human walked among them unguarded. Yet no one dared touch him, not even their strongest warriors, because the craving chained them tighter than any law. Meanwhile, in the streets, tension was rising. Merchants accused warriors of stealing slices. Warriors accused nobles of hoarding them. Families argued, neighbors fought, and small riots broke out when the human appeared. He always brought only one or two pizzas, never more. And the crowd that once laughed at him now pushed, clawed, and shouted for a chance to taste. The human never raised his voice, never lifted a weapon. He simply chose who received a slice, calmly, without fear. Sometimes it was a child, sometimes an elder, sometimes even a soldier who had mocked him before. No one understood his choices. And that only made the craving worse. Every alien wanted to be chosen. And those who were not chosen grew angry, jealous, desperate. The warrior woman tried to maintain order, but even her soldiers disobeyed. She caught two of them sneaking into the humans' quarters, begging for scraps. When she punished them, more appeared, kneeling before her, pleading for mercy. It was chaos, and her authority was slipping from her hands. The council finally summoned the human into the chamber. He walked in quietly, without fear. His plain clothes, a sharp contrast to the glowing robes and heavy armor around him. The council leader leaned forward, his voice echoing. "You will give us the recipe," he demanded. "You will teach us how to make this pizza." The human looked around calmly, his eyes steady. "No," he said simply. Gasps filled the chamber, anger flared, but still no one touched him. The warrior woman stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. "You must understand. Human, this is not a request. Our people are breaking apart." The human met her gaze, his calmness cutting through her words. "You are not breaking apart," he said. "You are changing." The words shook the chamber, louder than any shout. Council leader slammed his fist again. "Enough of riddles. Tell us your price. Do you want gold? Land? Slaves?" The human shook his head slowly. "Your treasures mean nothing to me," he replied. "This food is not for sale." The council members shouted over one another, voices rising in fury. Some demanded his arrest. Others warned against it. One whispered that without him, they might never taste pizza again. Fear spread through the chamber, fear not of the human strength, but of losing the food. Their pride told them to act, but their hunger chained their hands. Outside, the crowd had grown even larger. When they learned the human had gone into the council chamber, they gathered at the gates, chanting, shouting, demanding more. The colony was no longer united by strength or tradition, it was united by craving. The leaders looked out the window and saw it clearly. For the first time in history, the people listened not to them, but to a human. The warrior woman clenched her fists, torn between anger and admiration. She hated him for what he had done, yet she could not deny the truth. He held more power than their council, more influence than their generals, and he had done it with nothing but a simple dish. The human finally spoke again, his voice calm and soft. "You wanted to laugh at us, to mock what you did not understand," he said. "But now you see, our strength is not in size, not in weapons, but in creation." His words echoed in their minds, heavy and unshakable. The council leader trembled with fury, but his stomach growled loudly, betraying him. The other members shifted uncomfortably, their mouths watering, their hands twitching. The human turned and walked away, leaving silence behind him. The council, once feared across the galaxy, sat in their chamber hungry, powerless, defeated, and in the streets. The crowd cheered when they saw him return. Their voices rose, their hands stretched forward. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone knew it. The human no longer needed weapons or armies. He had something far stronger: control over their desire. The secret revealed: the colony could no longer hide its obsession. Merchants closed their stalls early, warriors skipped their patrols. Even council meetings grew shorter. Also, they could search for the human and his mysterious food. But as the craving grew, so did suspicion. Some aliens began whispering that it was not food at all. It must be a chemical weapon. One hissed in a shadowed alley, "He is controlling our minds with hidden drugs." Another muttered. Fear spread alongside hunger, and soon the council ordered the scientists of the colony to investigate. The warrior woman stood in the laboratory, her arms crossed, watching as the alien scientists took the last slice of pizza and placed it under their glowing machines. She hated that she had handed it over, hated even more that she wanted to snatch it back before they touched it. The smell still lingered. Mocking her, the lead scientist, a tall figure with glowing tendrils, bent close to the sample. "Whatever this is," he muttered, "it bends the will of our people." Hours turned into nights, and the scientists tested everything. They scanned the cheese, the bread, the toppings, the oils. They broke it down into parts, searching for poison, drugs, or hidden technology. But every test ended the same: nothing unnatural. It was only bread, cheese, vegetables, and meat, cooked together with heat. No chemicals, no weapons, no tricks. The warrior woman narrowed her eyes, frustrated. "That is impossible," she growled. "No simple food can do this." The scientist shook his head slowly, his tendrils dim with exhaustion. "Yet it is true," he said. "There is no trick. No secret substance. It is only taste. The council raged when they heard the report. The leader slammed his clawed hand on the table, his silver horns trembling. Then how do we explain this? He demanded. Why do we crave it? Why do our people beg for it? No one answered, not even the warrior woman. They all knew the truth. Though none wanted to say it aloud, humans had created something their proud empire could not. Meanwhile, outside the council walls, the colony had changed. Nobles who once dined on golden platters now sneaked into alleys, trading jewels for a single slice. Warriors who once boasted of strength now whispered like thieves, hoping to be chosen when the human returned, and children innocent and fearless spoke openly. Human food is better, they laughed, and no elder could silence them. The warrior woman sought the human again, her pride burning, her chest heavy with questions. She found him at the edge of the marketplace, calmly preparing another pizza. The smell rose into the night, pulling the crowd toward him like a tide. She forced her way through, standing before him, her voice sharp. Our scientists tested your food, she said. There is no poison, no drug, no trick. The human looked at her calmly, as if he had expected this. Of course, he replied softly. There was never any trick. The crowd murmured, confused. One shouted, Then what is it? Another demanded, Why can't we stop craving it? The human placed the hot pizza down, his hands steady, his eyes unblinking. It is simple, he said. We make food not only to live, but to feel, to share, to create joy. The aliens fell silent, his words cutting deeper than any weapon. The warrior woman clenched her fists, her voice trembling. You mean to tell us this power comes only from creativity? The human nodded. Yes, he said. That is the strength of humanity, turning the simple into something greater. The aliens shifted uneasily, their pride twisting in their chests. For so long, they had believed power came only from strength, wealth, or technology. But here was proof that power could come from imagination, from flavor, from something they had always dismissed as weak. And that truth was more dangerous than poison. The council grew furious when the news spread. Do you not see? One shouted, If humans can do this with food, what else can they do? Another hissed, If they can make us beg with bread and cheese, what will they do with art, with music, with ideas? Fear turned into panic, and panic turned into anger. Some called for the human's exile, others demanded his capture, but none dared act, because even the council members themselves dreamed of pizza in the silence of night. The warrior woman watched the debate, her heart torn. She knew they were right to be afraid, but she also knew the truth. Humans had done what her people could not. They had shown them something new, something powerful, without lifting a sword. And deep inside, she respected that, even as it scared her. The human, standing outside with the crowd, remained calm. He gave out slices carefully, not to all, but to those who stepped forward with humility. Every bite spread the truth further, that humanity was not weak, not laughable, but something different, something dangerous in ways no one had expected. And as the colony shifted further, as the council grew desperate, one question rose in every alien's mind. If humans could change their world with pizza, what else could they bring? Humanity's victory. The colony stood on the edge of change. For weeks, whispers of pizza had spread through every home, every hall, every corner of the streets. It was no longer just food, it was a symbol, a shadow that hung over their proud empire. The council feared it, the warriors craved it, and the common people begged for it. And at the center of it all was one quiet human with a simple box. The council gathered once more, their glowing eyes restless, their sharp claws tapping against the stone table. They had tried force, tried bribes, tried science, but nothing had broken the human's calm smile. Now they were left with only one option to face the truth. The warrior woman stood before them again, her voice steady though her chest was heavy. We cannot deny it, she said. This human has won, not with strength, not with weapons, but with something greater, the council leader hissed, his horns trembling with frustration. Then what do you suggest? Shall we bow to humans? Shall we admit we are weaker? The warrior's jaw tightened, her pride resisting, but her honesty cut through her hesitation. No, she said. Not weak or different, and perhaps that difference is their strength. Silence filled the chamber. Even the proudest leaders could not deny what they had seen. Their people were no longer loyal to them, no longer united by fear or discipline. They were united by taste, by joy, by something as simple as a slice of food, and the human had given it freely, not as a weapon, but as a gift. Outside, the streets were alive again, not with anger or war, but with gathering crowds. Aliens of all ranks stood side by side, nobles with commoners, warriors with merchants, all waiting for the human. When he appeared, carrying the familiar box, the crowd fell silent. No one mocked him now, no one laughed. They waited with respect, even awe. He opened the box, steam rising into the air, and the smell drifted through the marketplace like a warm wind. But this time, he did not hand out slices immediately. Instead, he raised his voice, calm but clear. You mocked us once, he said. You called us weak, strange, unworthy. The crowd lowered their eyes, shame burning in their chests. But humanity does not conquer with pride. We do not command with fear, we create. The warrior woman stepped forward, her voice loud enough for all to hear. He is right, she declared. We laughed, but it was our laughter that blinded us, not his weakness. This food has shown us that humans are more dangerous than we believed, not because they can fight harder, but because they can imagine more. The crowd murmured, their pride bending but not breaking. They understood now, and in that moment, respect replaced mockery. The human handed out the slices, not as charity, not as a trap, but as a bridge between worlds. Every bite was more than flavor, it was surrender, it was acceptance, it was a bond. That night, the colony changed forever. The council, once too proud to bend, invited the human to sit with them. Merchants offered not gold, but partnership. Warriors swore not to conquer him, but to protect him. And children sang his name, repeating stories of the day a simple dish silenced an empire. The warrior woman approached him quietly as the crowd dispersed. Her eyes, once sharp with mockery, now held something else: respect, and perhaps even admiration. You have done what no army could, she said softly. You made us kneel without lifting a weapon. The human looked at her, his calm smile unchanged. I never wanted you to kneel, he replied. I only wanted you to taste. Her chest tightened, for she realized the truth. It was never about control, never about conquest. It was about sharing, about showing them that strength could come from creation, not destruction. And that lesson, she knew, would outlive her. The colony's history would remember this day, not as a battle, but as a turning point, when laughter turned to silence, when pride turned to humility, when one human changed an empire with nothing more than pizza. As the stars shone above, the human walked through the streets, the box under his arm once more. He was not a conqueror, not a general, not a king. He was simply human, and that was enough. For the galaxy would soon learn what the colony now knew. Humanity's greatest power was not their weapons, not their armies, but their imagination. And today, it had begun with a single slice. But tomorrow, who knew what else they could bring?